Are you an Ayurvedic witch? Asked my client Mo. She asked me this on the phone after her skin issue practically disappeared after 3 days of using an herbal lay balm with sacred herbs that I had chanted over. Namaste. This is Monica Gruber from Vedic Arts. We are talking about powerful sacred herbs for the skin and Daivavyapashraya Chikitsa, faith based healing, and how Ayurveda is totally into faith based healing, and how we can increase the efficacy of the herbs that we use on our skin by using rituals and certain sacred herbs. Let's get started. When most people think of Ayurveda, they envision a serene spa setting, herbal teas, personalized diets, and beautiful oil massages from two massage therapists. While these treatments are foundational, they represent only a fraction of the complete Vedic healing system. As an integrative scholar of these ancient texts, I find that the most profound layer of Ayurvedic medicine is often the most overlooked, the spiritual dimension. Are you an Ayurvedic witch? Monica asked my client Mo. She asked me this on the phone after her skin issue practically disappeared after 3 days of using an herbal lay balm that I had made with sacred herbs that I had chanted over. Of course, I didn't tell her the chanting part, and this was during COVID. So I launched into the Ayurveda is not allowed to treat, cure, diagnose, or prevent any health issue or disease. It is not recognized by FDA or any other organization in the USA, the normal speech that I give, which is a disclaimer and which is true. However, I couldn't really tell her that the witchy part was herbs themselves and the power on the efficacy had come from the ritual and chanting. Allow me to elaborate. It was COVID, and I had just started doing virtual consultations for my Ayurveda clients. Even though I ran a mostly online college in a hybrid format with some in person classes, I had always preferred my first time clients to come in person. I was not sure if I could check the nadi. Nadi is the biofeedback from the pulse, or judge a person's energetic blueprint only online. I had certainly never made an herbal mix for a client with skin imbalances without actually seeing them in person. So during COVID, I had to use my secret superpower, which as a serious Ayurveda practitioner and director of an Ayurveda college, I wasn't sure be appreciated by potential clients anyway. To cut a long story short, I made this herbal mix. I prayed to Radha Krishna, the divine couple. I prayed to Dhanvantari, the lord of the presiding deity of Ayurveda, and I sent it over. So 3 days later, she called me. Everything was fine. Her skin looked great. And she was like, "What did you do? What did you do? You did something. How is it that I've used some of these herbs before and they never had the same effect?" And the secret was the prayer and the rituals, basically. So I told her, and she was very happy to hear that. And after that, I decided I'm never going to hide that I pray over my herbs and I chant over them. So that was the missing piece. Now, interestingly enough, Ayurveda suggests that as Ayurveda practitioners, we are supposed to chant. We are supposed to invoke the blessings of the divine on our herbs and for our clients. Because in ancient times, Ayurvedic practitioners were practically shamans and priests as well. Classical Ayurveda identifies a separate branch of healing called the Daiva. Daiva is a word which is same. Daiva means divine, meaning deities, demigods, angels. So think of it as faith-based healing or divine therapy or spiritual healing, whatever you want to call it. This is not merely an alternative medicine, but it is an acknowledgement that true wellness requires an alignment with vibrational and spiritual forces. By looking beyond the physical, we can find a rigorous science of faith and ritual designed to heal with what herbs alone cannot reach. Let me give you an example. Let's say you go to a local herb shop and you get a tea. Maybe it is for your skin, maybe it is for your digestion, maybe it's a headache issue, whatever. You get some herbal tea, and it doesn't do anything. One day you have a herbal tea with your friend, same herbal tea, and it is amazing. It makes you feel great, and it has a healing spiritual effect on you. Why is it that you can have the same herb from 10 different places and it'll have a different effect each and every time? Because herbs lose their potency unless they're in a tincture form, or they're in a ghee form, or they're in a jam form. If they're in just a herb form, they will lose their potency. So I would suggest don't buy dry herbs, with the exception of the herbs made of bark or root, for example, licorice root or ashwagandha root, ginger root, turmeric root, arjun is a bark, cinnamon is a bark, ashoka is a bark, willow is a bark. So if you have something like that, that'll be okay in a powder form for months, even up till 2 years. But if it's a leaf, it's not going to be okay. So if you are going to get a leaf and you have yourself harvested it and you put it in an airtight container, that might last 3 to 4 months. But when we are buying from outside, we never know what's happening. So we do need something to increase the efficacy of the herb. So number one thing we do is we pray over the herbs and we offer the herbs to the divine and do some chanting and mantras on them. That's number one. And number two is then we turn these herbs into a formula with either salt or ghee or a fermented liquid or a kashayam or decoction so that it lasts a longer time. In classical Ayurvedic tradition, a client is never viewed as a singular biological machine. Instead, healing is categorized into three interconnected pillars. This classification is amazing, revolutionary, because it treats the body, mind, soul as three aspects, right? And these are unique targets. So when someone comes to me or any Ayurveda practitioner, for the body, they might suggest some diet. For the mind, they might suggest, and there's something for the spiritual and the soul that lives inside us as well, where this is not something that's addressed in other forms of alternative and complementary healing modalities. So the number one is Sattva Vajaya Chikitsa, which is therapy for the mind, or you can call it counseling. And it is done through promotion of sattva. Believe it or not, people who live by a moral boundary and ethics, that is part of people who cheat others and do not have any moral boundaries or ethics. They will have more mental health issues in the long run and things like that. And of course, the diet has a role to play in it. And there's trauma from previous lives and karma that people are trying to work out in this life that also affects the mind. So that is one, Sattva Vijaya Chikitsa. Number two is called Vyapashraya. Yukti is basically a rational therapy. Now, Yukti is what most of you might be aware of. This is using interventions for lifestyle and diet and herbs, basically. This is the Ayurveda. The third one that is the topic for this particular podcast is Daivavyapashraya. This is a spiritual dimension or divine therapy. It involves rituals, mantras, faith, praying. So every flower remedy I make, first of all, I mostly grow my own flowers if I can. Then after they are grown, I clean them and I pray over them and I offer to the goddess and I put crystals around it and then I let them dry naturally and I play mantra music. And when after all that is done, I will turn them into a formula so that they stay longer or put them in glycerin for skin. I will make rose water for, e- e- or even things, even incense can be made with them. So many things can be made with them. So these are the three tiered architecture of healing in Ayurveda. The vibrational power of sound and symbol. To the uninitiated, Vedic rituals and practices may seem like folklore, but to a Vedic scholar, they are precise energetic tools. They have very high vibrations that get transferred from another realm to the herb to our body and mind. So you've all heard of the word mantra, sacred chanting. Another one I'm throwing out today is mani dharana. Mani means crystals or gems, and dharan is to wear. So wearing crystals, crystals can trap energy. And so if you pray and do rituals and chant over crystals, and you can put the crystals together with the herbs, and the herbs will, uh, the vibration of the crystal will get transferred to the herbs too. There are other surprising spiritual dimensions and interventions in this particular chikitsa. Number one is the recitation of verses. I mean, very simple, a very simple recitation that all Ayurveda practitioners will sing is Namami Dhanvantari Devam Sura Surehi Vanditu Pada Padmam Lokai Jararuk Bhimretyunasham Dhataravisham Vividhoshadhinam. That asking Lord Dhanvantari to remove all problems and increase the efficacy of the verbs and take care of the health problems, not just physically, mentally, spiritually. So this is an auspicious benediction. Another one is Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu, Mangalam Garuda Dvaja. Mangalam means auspicious. You can do Ganesha, or whatever you can pray to whatever deity you have some connection with as well. And then there is upahar. Upahar means giving of gifts or offerings, or yagya. So, in early morning when the sun has come up, take a nice bowl of clean water and go out where you can see the sun clearly rising and pour the water slowly in front of the sun, asking for benediction and blessing. Don't pour all the water, let some of the water remain, and that water is then considered blessed. You can also keep the water out in the sun, covered, of course, for a couple of minutes, asking sun to bless the water. And then you can use the drops of that water to increase the efficacy of your herbs. You can use that water in your herbal formulas or make a tea with it. In fact, that's called a sun tea. So this is one. Or if you have a little picture or of a deity, or you can have a little candle and you can make an offering. We do offering by actually having a deity on an altar or pictures and making specific offerings. If you're not into all that, you can make a Panchamahabhut altar, meaning an altar with five elements. It should have a candle for fire, it should have for air either a feather or a bell, and for earth, it should have crystals, and for space, it literally should have space. And there should be a little bowl, an empty bowl, in which you put your herbs in. And pranipata. Pranipata is after offering, we actually say that we surrender to this higher power. And we know that we're working through our karma. And the higher power is going to, take care of us. And the next one is Yatra Gamana. This is actually going on pilgrimages to holy places and getting holy water, for example, Ganga water. And, when this is mostly applied for. So what it does is whenever we go to holy sites or even nice temples or places where God is worshipped, it doesn't matter which religion it is. But since we talk about Vedic religion, I'm specifically talking about temples where a lot of chanting is done. Or even I like the energy of churches where they sing soul, it's very energetic. So when you go to these places, there's a reset of energetic patterns. And then the next is Aushadhi. You can not only take herbs, you can make protective amulets and talismans and put an herb inside it and wear it also at all times. And the last one is Homa, which are called yagya or fire rituals, meaning there's a little kind of how can I say, a little uh, four a square shaped bowl. It is square on the top and it's like an inverted pyramid. And you put a little bit of havan samagri, you put these herbs in it, and mango wood or different fragrant woods in it, and you burn it, and then you give some offerings to the gods and the deities, the daivas, and you also put some of the herbs that you're planning to use in the formula actually in the fire itself. And ideally, you don't know how to do it. You have to contact somebody who knows who's doing it. So I always have some blessed uh, herbs from the Homa, which I never give them away. I always keep them with me. But I take the blessed herb and I touch it to the packet or that I'm sending. I touch the herb and and do a little blessing. Also, you can take sandalwood that has been offered, or rose water, or beautiful aromas that have been offered to the deities, and touch them to the package. So not to the actual herb, but to the package to do a blessing as well. So these are some of the things that are done. Let's talk about karmic cleansing. In the spiritual aspect of Vedic healing, healing is not just something you take something and it's going to work. I mean, think about it. Why is it that the same herb or same herbal formula worked for your neighbor but doesn't work for you, or worked for your partner but doesn't work for you, or it worked for you but doesn't work for someone else? Why is that? Or doesn't work as well? So healing is not something we take. Healing is not something we do. We are should be, as an individual, an active participant in our own restoration, which is not just knowing that some of the health issues that are happening to us right now are a result of previous life karma. That means not only do we have to improve our habits, but also we have to cleanse the karma in order to feel better. And yogic practices, yamas and niyama, prayashchitta. Prayashchit means atonement. I know that Catholics have atonement where they go in front of a priest and they say, "Oh, Father, I've sinned." That would also work. But the kind of atonement that you make a vow that I'm going to try to improve myself in life, and I will try never to do this again. So once you have made done prayashchit, you cannot do it again. So idea is, I let me never do this again as an atonement. A good atonement is, for example, someone I knew wanted to atone for something she did, and she gave up eating sugar for 1 year. That was some form of atonement. There was someone in my spiritual line who gave up eating mango for the rest of his life to do some atonement. Now that is atonement. Going and saying, "I'm never going to do this again. Please atone me." Then the third is upavas, meaning some kind of spiritual fasting on spiritual days like Ekadashi, Dwadashi, and Purnima. Ekadashi is the 11th day of the moon. Dwadashi is the 12th day of the moon, and Purnima is the full moon. Especially Ekadashi is the most powerful fasting. Fasting on that day, at least from grains, and you can have milk and juice and fruits and nuts, that's fine. They reset, not just give a break to the stomach. Ideally, if, go all day just not eating anything, but just maybe having some fruit and drinking warm water, that is the best thing. But if you can't do that, you can eat root vegetables and, some fruits, or at least eat just once a day. And that upavas, the Ekadashi, happens every 15 days, 5 days before Purnima. So you can look up Ekadashi calendar, and it resets our digestion, our individual spiritual state. And these karmic cleansing are not just symbolic gestures. They're designed to rectify negative energy or actions from our past lives that have now manifested as a physical disease or a problem. This is especially critical for conditions that may not be responding amazingly to conventional treatment. So remember, this is faith-based healing. So in Vedic view, when rational therapy fails, it is often because it is a karmic or a spiritual layer that is affecting the problem rather than a biological one. How do we know this? Because sometimes a person may also be going through uh, a period astrologically, for example. And as soon as the period comes to end, the herbs start working as well. I have so many examples of that. While critics may dismiss these ancient rituals as occult, modern science is actually catching up through the field of psychoneuroimmunology, or PNI, that studies the bidirectional communication between the mind and immune system, providing a modern vocabulary for what Vedic scholars have known for millennia. Practices like mantra, chanting, faith based rituals have been shown to influence the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, significantly reducing cortisol levels and downregulating the stress response. Go figure. When a client engages in auspicious rites, surrender, chanting, they're essentially shifting their biology into a state of deep relaxation and receptivity. The spiritual dimension fills the critical gap. In practice, most Ayurvedic practitioners do integrate these spiritual methods as a supportive, holistic layer, and they may or may not tell that to their client, as I used to do. But now I do. Now I have come out as a complete Ayurvedic practitioner who is heavy on spiritual dimension. And yeah, I pray over my herbs and pray for my clients and chant for them. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the podcast and let me know if you have any comments. Thank you.